Well, what does theater have to do with using microphones?
What doesn't theater have to do with microphones?
In theater, you're talking to the people.
To the people.
No microphones.
By the people.
You are the microphone.
In high school, they don't expect you to be able to actually project, so they've got mics.
So they give you a bunch of microphones. Hey, everybody, welcome to Mission Stories. My name is Troy, and I'm here with Lyndon, too. Hi, Lyndon.
Hello.
And we're also here with our wonderful, fabulous guest of the day, Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes, what is your last name? I forget.
Fright. It's Fright. I've never heard Ben's before. So funny, Troy.
For one half split second, I literally thought you had never heard that joke before. And I was like, really? Because that was the first thing
all the time
that came to my mind. How you doing, Mercedes?
I'm doing so good. Life is grand.
Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I saw your story on the Humans of YSA Calgary thing that our good friend Ching does. And I was like, oh, it's so interesting. But also, is she above our podcast? And I kind of was like, she might be. She might be above it.
No.
That was a concern?
That was my concern.
Why was that a concern?
I don't know. You're just so cool, and you're so like, and your story's so like poignant and interesting. And,
oh, you're so nice.
Which is why I thought, what a waste to just have it on Humans of Calgary YSA. It's like, what a waste for that story just to be a photo on Ching's social media thing. We got to get this story on some long-form media.
When you first started that sentence, I was like,
Yeah.
What else are you going to say? What a waste. I think we're all blowing out the mics. That's my fault. Okay. So your story is very interesting.
Thank you.
Before we get to that, though, Lyndon, I just want to talk to you for like 16 minutes, and then...
we haven't seen each other in like 2 weeks.
It's been a long time, yeah. We have lots of news to share with each other, I'm sure. How have you been? What's up?
It's like a little sidebar, just a personal conversation, Troy and I. I'm doing well.
Oh, yeah.
It's been good.
All right, so Mercedes, back to you.
Hey, I was excited for that.
I was too, and then it took a quick
Come
dive.
on, Lyndon.
Lyndon, prepare some words for next time.
That's not what I'm here for.
Next time I chuck it back to you as a surprise.
You have to give me the signal that you're gonna like fiddle with something. You need me to say things.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's
it's
that's
a
fair.
triple wink.
Okay, I'm gonna drink some water now.
Okay, perfect. Today's a good day. Sliced my finger open. With
All right, thank you so
knife.
much.
And we're back.
Sorry, so you sliced your finger with an X-Acto knife?
Yeah, it was really real embarrassing.
Where did you do this?
At work.
See, you sent me a Snapchat, but I swear the picture was taken in your bathroom. Was it not?
I cut my finger first thing in the morning.
Okay.
I didn't document it until later in the day.
Okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to switch back over to Mercedes because I realize we don't honestly have that much time with her. So probably. Also, I ran.
Wait, did you
here.
actually want to talk to me?
Well, no.
I thought that was just a cover.
No, I actually
to get
do.
ready to prepare for talking to Mercedes.
Well, I just want to, people listen to this mostly because of you, Lyndon.
I would have to agree with that.
And I'm just trying to give the people what they want.
I will admit, I'm probably the best part of this podcast.
Oh, I know that for a fact.
The most important part? Absolutely not. The part that makes it all work? No. But the best part?
Best part, yeah.
Yeah.
You win. But anyway, so we don't need to... I don't know if my ego can handle any more of this kind of talk. So we'll flip it over to Mercedes. Now, Mercedes.
Yes.
This is called Missions. This is a Mission Stories podcast.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Okay.
I was about to like sort of distill what we do on this podcast into like one sort of sentence, but we do a whole lot of sort of things. We tell funny mission stories. We dive into doctrine. We tell sort of broad scope stories of missions, but I think I don't know quite how to classify, just based on what I read from your thing. I don't know quite how to classify it, but I figure we can just dive in. My first question for you is, when did you join the church?
I joined the church my baptism day was May 23rd, 2015. I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I had investigated for like 2.5 months at that point when I joined the church.
You like knew some Mormons. Hadn't you known some for like a long time though?
Yeah. So I first came into contact with the church in grade 8 or 9 when I made some Mormon friends. And I got bits and pieces of doctrine from them over the years, specifically my friend Brenna. We had lots of conversations. I specifically remember one. We were walking from my house to the mall, which is not a short walk. Like that's a
How far was that walk?
Like 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, which when you're in grade 10 or grade 9 or grade 10, like that seems like a long walk.
And your legs are short.
Hey, I'm not that
fully
short.
Developed.
You know, not 80%, now they're fine.
80%
okay,
there.
now they're fine.
Grade 10, you know, you're walking around on little nubs, and how are you supposed to get anywhere quickly?
Little baby legs.
But thank goodness it took that long.
Yeah, because we ended up talking about how these are the last days, like that of all things. Like
she led with the apocalypse, huh?
Yeah. I was telling her how I thought that everything that was prophesied in Revelation was happening.
Right.
And she's like, well, that's what our church believes.
Guess what?
Like,
you're right.
Yeah, pretty much.
The world is ending soon. These are the latter days. That'd be a good podcast name. Oh, that should be our I've been wanting to make a conspiracy theory podcast.
Oh,
yes.
no.
We should call it the latter days.
Perfect.
So anyway, you learn about the gospel from your friend. It sort of ruminated with you for how long would you say?
Well, obviously I haven't actually forgotten that story, and so
to this day.
Yeah, to this day. So I think the turning point was in grade 11. She told me about Joseph Smith.
Yep.
And the Book of Mormon and his whole struggle with there being multiple churches. And I really related with that simply because I believed the same thing. I was like, well, every church has some truth in it. They all say the same thing. Why do they fight? Why don't they just get along?
Yeah. And
so she told me about Joseph Smith, and like the next day I was telling my mom about it, and I was like, isn't that so cool? And I think I just instantly believed it. It took me a year to actually pick up the Book of Mormon and read it. But
and was your mom like, oh no, what's going on?
No, apparently after I got baptized, or I told her I was going to get baptized, she's like, that took you long enough. Like I figured you were going to.
Board.
Yeah, she kind of knew the whole time, I guess.
Cool.
But
so then you when did you decide to go on a mission? Like at what point did you want to go?
I did not want to go. I did not want to go on a mission.
Okay.
It was the last thing that I wanted to do, actually. And from the time I got out of the font, people were asking me if I was going to go on a mission. And I always said no. So I was like, I just joined the church. I don't have to go. It's fine.
I'm good, bro.
Yeah. But then as time went on, more and more people were asking, and like people that you wouldn't expect. That October I went to Costa Rica with like this tour group.
Yep.
And it was with a bunch of non-members. I was the only member, and I would obviously talk about the gospel and stuff, and they started asking if I was going to go on a mission. And I was like, you guys, you've never even met a Mormon, and here you are asking if I'm going to go on a mission. What the heck? So then I was like, well, maybe this is something that I should actually think about. So I started thinking about it, and then I was really scared. I did not want to go. But I remember on Christmas, so like a month and a half later, I like had a complete meltdown. I don't remember why, but I was just sobbing, and like everything seemed really loud. Like in my head, it was just a bunch of white noise, and I couldn't really, I just couldn't calm down, and I couldn't stop shaking.
So what does that feel like? White noise in your head?
It's just, you can't think. It's just loud. Like there's literally, it's like there's a bunch of music, different kinds of music all playing at the same time, and you can't pick out anything specific. Is
it actually like music that you can recognize, or is that just sort of like an analogy?
That's just kind of an analogy.
Like you're at a loud show or something, and it's just like you can't hear yourself think.
Yeah.
It's actually every Blink-182 song played at once.
Sounds awesome. That's so interesting. Okay, so Sorry to interrupt.
That's
so
okay.
you are experiencing that, and then what happens?
And I knew that I should pray. So I got on my knees and I started praying, and I was just asking Heavenly Father to help. And I had the distinct thought that I needed to tell him my decision to serve a mission. And so I said, Heavenly Father, I've decided that I'm going to go on a mission. And as soon as I said that, everything just calmed down. Like my head went quiet, and I stopped crying, and I stopped shaking. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going on a mission now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So was there a moment of like, even, so it's like you feel relief, I imagine, that sort of that quieting of the mind had occurred. Did you sort of feel like, dang it, now I got to go on a mission, though?
I think that thought crossed my mind.
Yeah.
But mostly I knew it was the right thing to do. So I was just like prepared to start working towards it.
Right. How long was that preparation process for you? Because I know you have to wait a year if you're a new member before you can do all that stuff, like go through the temple, go on a mission.
Yeah, so I made the decision December 25th, and then I think my papers were sent in like June 19th.
Okay.
So just over a year after I was baptized.
Okay. December 25th. That's the day when it all happened?
Yeah.
That was a crap Christmas, sounds like. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so then where did you get called to serve?
I got called to Halifax.
Halifax.
Yeah.
I'm
Halifax
going
mission.
to Nova Scotia
Really?
tomorrow.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
jealous. I love it over there.
My sister's getting married, and her fiance is from there, so I'm going to go to Nova Scotia tomorrow.
Nice.
What do I need to go see and do there?
Well, I was actually only in Nova Scotia for one transfer.
Okay.
So I was in Wolfville.
A city run by wolves, the first and only one of its kind.
But I loved it. It's beautiful.
Surprisingly
it's absolutely
well-run.
Beautiful.
Okay, I'm gonna take your word for it. I'll report back on this when I come back from Nova Scotia.
Do it.
My
If you
only
have
request.
a chance, you should do the Cape Split hike.
Cape Split hike.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
it takes you to like this cliff over the Bay of Fundy.
Yes.
It's not even that much of a hike. It's more of a walk, but that's like the best you get out
nature
there.
walk.
So
I'm glad that you knew that I needed to hear that before I'd be willing to consider doing it. Okay, Cape Split hike.
yeah,
Is that right?
It's
Okay.
Cape Split. Yeah.
All right.
Your trip would truly be a waste if you didn't go take some pictures in the trailer parks where Trailer Park Boys was
my
filmed.
God. Yeah, I'm gonna write that down too. Trailer Park Boys. My sister will be like, "Troy, where are you? We're about to start." I'm like, "Yo, I'm in the trailer park with Bubbles, yo. Check it out." So the Halifax, Canada mission. Is that what it was called?
Canada Halifax.
Canada
mission.
right.
Yeah. So CHM.
They
Yeah.
always flip it around. And then maybe I'll just let you maybe tell your story from here, because this is where, to me, it gets quite interesting. And I don't want it to be, what's the word, sort of, I don't want you to feel like we're using you for your extraordinary story or whatever. What's the term I'm thinking of? Exploitative? Yeah.
If anything, she's exploiting us to get her story out.
Yeah. Hey.
If you want to think about it that way, go for it.
Or just like a mutual partnership.
Sure.
Mutually beneficial.
So, you get to your mission. How did you find it?
Okay, so I loved my mission. I'm just going to put that out there right now. My mission was one of the best experiences of my life.
Yep.
When I left, it was really hard, and I didn't realize that the emotions I was feeling weren't actually normal. I thought that's what everybody felt, but now looking back, I realize that it was harder than it probably should have been.
When did you come home from your mission?
I came home on May 26th of 2017.
How far into your mission was that?
7.5 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry. So you experienced things on your feelings on your mission. What would you describe? Like, what are those feel like? Do they have a name? Is it depression? Is it like what?
So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Yeah. So I started getting depressed in high school. I didn't know at the time that it was depression. I just knew that I cried a lot.
Right.
And there were lots of times that I didn't see the point of anything. When I joined the church, it got easier. A little bit. It got a little bit better because I knew that I was a daughter of God and that everything was going to be okay in the end. But at the same time, it also got a little bit harder because I started noticing a pattern to it. It wasn't all the time. I'd notice it would come and then it would go and then I'd never know when it was going to come back. And so it was like that anticipation was almost worse.
Like, like kind of an anxiety that comes along.
Yeah. Because it's like, oh, I'm having a good day. Is it going to last? Like, am I going to have a terrible night? Like, what's happening here?
Right, yeah.
And so I didn't think anything of it, but I remember right before I left, actually, a couple months before I left on my mission, I was actually looking up mental disorders because I thought I might have one. And I settled on bipolar 2, like bipolar disorder 2. I was like, I think I have that.
You settled on
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure I have that, but it's fine.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not that big a deal. Like, I don't need help. I'm strong enough to, this will go away. It's fine. Didn't want to worry my parents.
You're a good storyteller. Like, this is so like foreshadowing and ominous, you know, the clouds in the distance. You're like, those will be fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It'll pass.
There will be no hurdles to overcome.
So then I got on my mission and the MTC, I absolutely loved it, but I cried a lot. Like a lot.
Right. Here's the thing about the MTC though. I cried a lot there
I know.
too.
And that's why I thought it was normal. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, I'm just homesick.
Yeah.
I'm just like nervous and anxious. It's fine. This is normal. But then I got on my mission and my first transfer, I was the same. Like my mission president wasn't there in the mission when we got there. He was at like a conference for mission presidents in New York.
Okay.
And so I didn't actually meet him until my first zone conference.
Oh.
First time he shook my hand, I was sobbing. I like just started crying because I was in such a bad headspace that I couldn't, I didn't feel like I was trying hard enough and that I was just failing and that I shouldn't be there and just all of these really terrible thoughts. And
so it was a negative sort of tears. It wasn't
Yeah, no, I was just struggling.
Yeah.
I was really struggling. And I think my companion and I both thought that it was just normal greeny tears, like send me home now.
It's like greeny fire. There's also greeny tears.
Greeny tearies, yeah. We all get those.
To extinguish the greeny fire, you have the greeny
There's
tears.
opposition in all things.
That's right. I don't know if Lyndon ever had that. Did you cry on your mission?
Yeah, I remember my first day.
Oh, that's right.
Personal study was just 45 minutes of crying.
Yeah, because you're like, you realize what you had done and it was all sinking in.
Yeah. There was no tears in the MTC. The MTC was a party.
Yeah.
First day on the mission, it's just like, oh, what have I done?
Oh, no.
It's like, this is real.
2 more years of this. Did you ever hear that thing where it's like the older companion looks to the younger companion and it's like there's a plane passing in the sky and he says, how far away do you think that plane is, elder? And the young elder's like, I don't know, like 30,000 feet or whatever. And he's like, it's 2 years away. And then that missionary goes and cries himself to sleep. So, okay, so the first time you meet your mission president, you're sobbing.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh boy.
Like we shook hands and I got through zone conference. I think I might have fell asleep at one point, but like got through zone conference. We shook hands at the end, had our meeting, and I just started crying as soon as we sat down in the chairs.
Yeah.
And he was very patient and very loving. My mission president was
This was like a one-on-one meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
My mission president was probably the best mission president that I could have asked for.
Yeah.
Simply because he understood my struggles and he loved me and he helped me through them a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think he realized how much he made a difference in that for me.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you start... How many areas did you have total?
I had 2 areas.
Okay.
So I was in my first area for 6 months.
6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then one more area after that.
Yeah.
Okay. How many companions did you have?
3.
2 in the first, 1 in the last?
Yeah, I had I was with my trainer or my first companion for 1 transfer, and then I was with the same companion for 3 transfers, and then I finished somebody's training for a transfer.
Okay. How did you get along with? How were your relationships with these companions?
I think they were really good. Yeah, I got along with all of my companions. My first companionship, I don't think she quite understood exactly what was going on, I think. But because I didn't understand it either, I couldn't just be like, hey, my brain's being a dick. Like, I can't do this. It was more, we just thought I was homesick.
Right.
So it was harder for her to be able to help me and to understand what was going on. But my second companion, the one that was with me for 3 transfers, she was an angel.
Yeah.
Like, if I had a meltdown, she'd just sit there, she'd say something, she'd do something at that moment that was just right.
Yeah.
That would help me. And like, she was there through me realizing something was wrong, to starting to go to talk to a counselor, to going to a doctor, to getting medicine that wasn't working, to like, she was there for all of it.
Can you sort of walk us through maybe some lead up, or maybe like as an example of like a moment where you might have what you'd call a meltdown? And I'm also interested to like, what would this angel companion do that would sort of, what was the right moment? Or if you have one of those examples.
Yeah, I have a couple. So the meltdown story I'll give you is the one that I shared for the Calgary YSA. One, just because it helps people understand the extent of like the highs and the lows.
This is what I read that and I was like, oh my goodness.
Okay, so
because it's scary. It's like, that's
it
terrifying.
Was awful, and it was my 4th day with this companion. So her name is Sister Stoker. We got transfers. We got together, like we had zone conference, and the next day we get back, and our mission at this point had a 15-hour finding standard. So every week my mission president would want us to go out and contact and try to find people for 15 hours.
Okay.
This was very stressful for me because I was always so worried we weren't going to hit that standard. And that because we were teaching so many people. I think at the time we had like 10 investigators.
Oh, okay.
And so trying to meet with them every week and have the 15 hours finding, it was just really stressful.
Wow.
And we had missed a full day for zone conference because zone conference was 4 hours away.
Right.
And so I was just stressed all day.
Like, those are 4 hours we could have been finding it.
Well, 4 hours plus staying there for zone conference plus 4 hours back, right? Like, it was like a full thing.
Meanwhile, every other missionary is like, oh, thank goodness we get to drive for 4 hours and then 4 hours back.
I was so stressed. And so we got back to the apartment just before dinner, and every Tuesday night we had a ward correlation with the ward mission leader and his wife and the 4 elders that were in the ward.
Yeah.
So we were just about to go to that, but we were doing some area book work, and my companion was sitting in front of a table that had like a full-length mirror in front of it.
Yeah.
Like on the wall.
Okay.
And I went to look over her shoulder at the area book, and I happened to glance up in the mirror, and I just had the thought, I was like, I look so fat. I was like, I'm so fat right now. And then that's when everything kind of just snapped. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I like, the stress just like went through the roof, and I just started yelling at Sister Stoker. I was like, Sister Stoker, I can't do this anymore. And I ripped off my clothes, like my cardigan, my dress. I just took it all off. I was like just in my garments. And I was like, I'm just yelling, like, I can't do this. And she's like, Sister Fright, it's okay. Like, calm down. And she's like trying to get me to stop and calm down. And she like took me into our room, laid me on the bed, and was like, just stay there. I'm going to do area book work, so it counts as finding. Just chill. I was like, no, I have to help you. Like, I can't just lay here. And she's like, no, stay. And she's like, just rest. I was like, fine. Okay. So I sat there for a little while, calmed down, put on a different dress, one of her clothes, like one of her dresses, so that I didn't feel fat, because I thought maybe that would help. And we headed over to our ward mission leader's house, and he's also happened to be the gospel principles teacher.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Of course. And so we finished dinner, and then he's like, so I'm not going to be there on Sunday, so I need one of you to teach gospel principles.
Okay.
So we played this like dice game. I don't even remember exactly what it's called or how to play it, but like if you're the last person, you win technically. But
this
in this
sounds high
case,
pressure.
so high pressure. But in this case, the last person had to teach. So I didn't want to win.
This is such like
a game of chance.
Yeah.
You couldn't write this any better. Like you had just, you're like, you put yourself together,
Yeah.
and then the ward mission leader like pulls a revolver out and is like, "Who wants to play Russian roulette?" Huh?
Pretty much. And so then, naturally, I'm the last one in the game. I won the game. So then I had to teach gospel principles.
Oh my God. Okay.
And so at that point I realized, and I started breathing really fast. I was like, guys, I can't. And they all looked at me. I was like, I literally cannot teach gospel principles. And I started to like get overly like hyperventilating and like overly anxious. But like, I thought it was, at the same time I was like laughing because I couldn't believe it was happening.
Yeah.
And so I started telling them that I had just finished ripping off my clothes and like that whole situation to try to explain why I couldn't teach gospel principles.
Yeah.
And so all of the elders were laughing like nonstop.
Oh, there were elders there.
There were 4 elders there. 4 elders, my ward mission leader and his wife.
Okay.
So they were all just dying laughing. And then I was laughing hysterically and couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And like hyperventilating. And so then eventually they said like, no, it's fine. Like Sister Stoker will teach. You don't have to teach. It's fine. Like, don't worry. And then all of a sudden I just crashed and I just like had no energy. And I just sat there. And I remember leaning forward on the table and like the ward mission leader's wife just like scratching my back. And I couldn't function. And we went and left and got in the car and I just started crying. And I could not stop crying. I didn't know why. And so like, to the point that I couldn't see and I was the one driving. So like we had to pull over and stop because I was crying so hard.
Yeah.
And then we went back to the apartment. I didn't stop crying till I went to bed.
Wow.
And my companion called the elders and we're like, elders, you need to come and give Sister Fright a blessing because she's not doing so hot. So they came, all 4 came to the apartment. They gave me a blessing. I laid on the couch and she did weekly or daily planning right beside me, just while I was on the couch. And then I went to bed and I just cried the whole time.
The whole night?
The whole night. I just had tears coming out of my eyes the whole night.
So you didn't sleep?
Oh, no. I slept. Once I fell asleep, I cried myself to sleep.
Right.
But
and tears were still coming out of your eyes.
But tears were still coming out of my eyes. Yes.
Have you ever woken up crying before?
Yeah. I hate it.
It's weird. Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about me another time. So that
continue. Was like the first big meltdown.
Yeah.
4th day with Sister Stoker. 2nd time seeing one of the elders that was at that table. That was his second impression of me. Was me telling him I took off all my clothes.
Right. Can I just ask you, in that moment, would you say you were? I mean, I guess. What am I trying? I'm trying to ask. Like, did you feel like you were yourself even when you were explaining to everybody that you like had taken your clothes off and everything?
No.
Like if you were in like your best self, probably wouldn't have said that, right?
Probably not. I think I would have.
I
think I might have
like
told the
joke,
story.
right? Like
I think I might have told the story, but I wouldn't have been as hysterical about it,
right.
And I wouldn't have been so over the top with it,
right?
Because that's the thing with my mental illness is I'm already so outgoing and like no filter that it's hard to tell once I've hit that high, or when I'm about to, and so I'm starting to realize the difference, and so I might have still told the story, but I wouldn't have told it in the manner that I did.
Right. Yeah, because just as you were saying that, I was, because I tell. I mean, this whole podcast is us telling horribly embarrassing things about ourselves to whoever is. Please, more people listen, please. But yeah, I think that just kind of strikes me as like, probably something maybe that you had not maybe wanted to tell in that way or whatever.
I have some clarifying questions.
Sure,
okay.
yeah.
Sister Stoker.
Yes.
Is this the second companion?
Yes, this is the second companion.
Okay. And because I kind of have this thing, before your mission, you're Mercedes. When you go on your mission, you're Sister Fright.
Yep.
And so is this something that would happen to you before your mission? These like hysterical meltdowns?
I would have a lot of meltdowns in the sense that I'd cry for hours or I would just feel really dark. But not that I can remember where I'd go from low to high that fast.
So like,
I can't, like, it's really hard for me to look back and see all of the patterns. Like, I can see moments, but I can't see everything.
So at the time, are you like, this might not be normal for Mercedes, but this is probably normal for Sister Fright? Because there was times on my mission where I was like, yeah, this is just how Elder Naglis feels.
Honestly, yeah, there's a bit of a heightened
because you're just
thing
like,
that happens on
you're
a
like,
mission.
I'm a missionary now.
Yeah.
Things are different.
I feel like you're so in tune with the spirit when you're a missionary that you see yourself more clearly, and like you can feel your emotions more clearly. And so I think that's why it was so important that I went on a mission, not just for the people that I met, but because it helped me see exactly what I was feeling and helped me come to terms with the fact that my feelings weren't normal.
Yeah.
Because it exaggerated them to the point that I noticed.
And there's something about a mission where the experience of a mission, I feel, sort of like grates on anyone who does it the way that we're told to do it, to the point where we're very raw. And you're right, we feel like all of our emotions so much like stronger and more like everything. You're just very sensitive in every way.
Negative and positive.
Negative and
emotion.
positive, yeah. And so I can totally. I mean, I don't think I had any experience quite like that, but I've like sort of like I've in the ballpark, right?
Because I've always talked about missions and the hero's journey.
Yeah.
You go to my elders quorum lessons. I've got the hero's journey diagram where it's like you're going. The hero goes down into the depth of hell.
Yeah.
Comes back out a different person.
Yes.
And that's why I think missions are so important to people. Because, like, I had a medical problem on my mission that, had I not gone on a mission, in my comfortable, regular Lyndon life, might have gone unnoticed for too long until, like, irreparable changes happened.
Yeah.
But because I get tossed into the burning pit of a mission, it's like... all the dross gets thrown into the fire as well, and so
it's a big filter. Okay, so you that was your first sort of experience with that,
where I realized that something was actually wrong. Where it wasn't normal missionary homesickness, sadness kind of thing.
Okay, so it was kind of a wake-up call for you. Okay.
Well, then now I'm curious. So that's kind of like your first red flag.
Yeah.
What was the first red flag you think for like your mission president or your companions? Because I wonder if you go into your interview and you just sob at the first sight of your mission president. Is he putting notes down?
He might have been. I don't know. Not that I noticed.
Or is that going under everyone's radar? When do you and your mental health enter into the Halifax mission's radar? Versus when does your mental health enter your radar? Is it the same time?
I think Sister Stoker's was at the same time as mine. I think she figured it out pretty quick after meeting me, simply because that happened so fast.
Yeah. And probably a good thing, though, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
It was totally a good thing. And so all the elders in that district knew too, because most of my meltdowns were in front of them, or they at least heard about them because I'd ask for a blessing after.
Right.
And my mission president, actually, after I talked to Sister Stoker about this and we started to notice the patterns in my days, she mentioned talking to the mission president, obviously. So I called him and I was talking to him and he said, it's funny that you call me right now because I was just on the phone with LDS Family Services yesterday and they asked if there's anybody that they thought or that I thought would benefit from counseling, and your name came to my mind, not because of anything you've done or anything you've said to me, just because your name came to my mind.
Yeah.
And then I happened to call him the next day to ask about counseling because of all of this stuff that was going on.
Yeah.
And to tell him that I wasn't doing okay.
Yeah. So did you you kind of went through counseling while on your mission. Was that helpful?
It was, to an extent. So I started it. They didn't have an LDS Family Services in Presque Isle, Maine, which is where I was.
Yeah.
There wasn't. I think the closest one was actually in Toronto. And so my sessions were all on the phone. So I'd lay in bed and talk on the phone with my counselor.
Interesting.
And I found they helped a little bit, but never. because whenever he called or whenever I called him, it was never when I was in the middle of a bad day or in the middle of one of my breakdowns or that I was feeling sad. So I would just tell him about those times, and then there wasn't much that we could do. And I don't think I got along with that counselor very well. Like, we just weren't compatible. Like, he was a good counselor, I'm sure. We just weren't compatible.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about sort of leading up to actually, like, when you, like, how did the decision get made that you would go home? Was that your decision? Was that sort of a joint decision with the mission president?
I think it was my decision.
Like, when did it become too much?
So once the counseling didn't work, or I realized I needed more than the counseling, I went to one of the doctors in Presque Isle. She was a member, so I could just go and see her. And she told me that she thought I had bipolar disorder 2. Yeah. So bipolar 1 is like the really, really highs and the really, really lows. Yeah. Bipolar 2 is highs, but not as high, and really lows. And so I just don't get as manic, is what it's called, as the people with bipolar 1. And she gave me a prescription, but because I was on my mission, I wasn't allowed to start that prescription. Yeah. Just because there are rules for the kinds of drugs that you can start while you're out. And so we decided to treat it like depression, which is good. The antidepressant was good because it would help me with the depression, which was mostly what I was struggling with. But when you have bipolar and you take an antidepressant, it shoots you into the mania. Oh. It makes you high. Yeah. And so... yeah, not good. So I also started taking a lot of fish oil because it acts as a natural mood stabilizer. Okay. I knew once we started it that it wouldn't be a fix. It wouldn't fix it all, but I knew that it would fix it until I had to go home. Yeah. I knew that Heavenly Father would make it work. And it did work for a while. I had less meltdowns. I still cried a lot and I still felt the mood swings, but it wasn't as bad and I could still work. And so once I got transferred to Wolfville, I started noticing that it was getting worse. Every other day, the meltdown would be to the point where I would just fall asleep because it was so exhausting. Yeah. And I would just cry so much. And I think a few weeks in, my companion and I were helping another sister who had been struggling with suicidal thoughts and depression. And I was laying in bed one day while my companion was in the kitchen. And I remember laying and looking at my wall of pictures because I had a bunch of pictures from the mission up on my wall. And I just had this thought or this urge to go to the kitchen and to stab myself in the stomach with a knife. And I just pictured it. And then at that moment, I realized that that wasn't a normal thought to have. And I realized that that was a suicidal thought and it had never clicked in my head before. And so I guess at that moment I was like, oh, wow, this is worse than I thought it was. Yeah. And that's when I realized that I needed to go home. I knew right then that if I told anyone that I was going to have to go home.
Had you ever had thoughts like that before?
Yeah. And I didn't realize it. So I don't remember them specifically, but I remember thoughts. When I was in high school, it was more just dying in general. But then it got specific. So now it's more specific. There'll be specific scenarios, or not anymore, but at the time there were specific scenarios like the knife. Or I remember one time it was thinking about getting in my hot tub and closing the top of it.
What is the sensation? Is it like the urge to do it, or the I should do it, or or you just sort of see the image of that act taking place, or?
It's like it. Yeah, I see it in my head, and I just think it'd be so easy. Right. That's kind of the thought process behind it. Is it would just be so easy to do it, and why not? Yeah,
I get that at high, heights. Do you know what I mean? When you're at just wow, this is really high, and it would be extremely easy to just it's not the same thing though. I don't imagine, but. And I don't want to trivialize what you're saying.
Oh, of course not. It's fine.
Okay, so you have those thoughts. That particular thought was sort of the crux where you're okay, I need to do something. I need to go home.
Yeah, and so I didn't say anything for a couple days because I didn't want to go home. Right. I didn't want that to be the case. Yeah. But my companion, this new companion, Sister Dawson, she also struggled with depression and suicidal thoughts and things like that in high school. And so she was very understanding with it. And so I was sitting at the table and she was in the kitchen and I was like, so Sister Dawson, what exactly is classified as a suicidal thought? And she like comes and pokes her head around the corner and she's like, what? And I was like, just out of curiosity, like what is a suicidal thought? And so she like told me like her definition and she like explained it and she's like, are you having them? And I just paused and was like, maybe, I think so. And then she came and sat down and I told her and she said I needed to call the mission president and I just started crying because I was like, yeah, I know, but I have to go home.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go home.
Yeah.
And so I called him and he said, basically was like, okay, I'm going to talk to Sister Pratt and we're going to call the missionary department and figure this out. And then he had me call the mission nurse and she instantly started talking about going home and that I didn't fail.
Yeah.
Just because I had to go home. So I was like, okay, obviously I'm going home. And so within a couple days, my mission president had called me back and said that they had a ticket for me to go home, and that I was going to leave with all the missionaries going home that transfer. And then I would have 6 months to try to get everything under control, to get an official diagnosis because I didn't have an official one yet. If it wasn't bipolar, then I could try to go back after the 6 months. But if it was bipolar, I couldn't go back at all.
Okay. So when you came home, so what was the official diagnosis?
Bipolar 2.
Bipolar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you have wanted to go back out if you could, if they cleared you and everything?
It's actually really funny because at the time, like, the thought of going back was the only reason I was able to get home, like go home and be okay about it.
Right.
But once I got home, it's like Heavenly Father just prepared me for the answer to be no. Because by the time I got the answer, I was completely okay with that. I didn't feel like I wanted to go back anymore.
Yeah.
But he also like basically was like, you're going to come back. You're going to be back on your mission, because it was the only thing that got me through emotionally.
Right.
Because before I had that thought that I was going to go back, I literally would just sporadically cry all day.
Yeah.
Just at different times, I'd just start randomly crying. And that continued for a couple of days until I had the thought that I was going to be able to go back and the impression that I would be able to go back. And so then I was able to go home and not cry every other like hour.
Now, do you think, do you feel like you have it under control? Do you think you understand yourself better and maybe the illness more, such that you're able to sort of live with it better?
Yes, definitely. It took about 9 months, I'd say, to figure out exactly what medication I'd needed to feel stable. And so I think I'm going on like 3 months now of like pretty much complete mental stability, which is really, really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously there's still moments where I can feel it, or I'll have a panic attack here and there.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, I didn't know normal life was so great. It's awesome.
What would you recommend to, because I have a hunch that there's so many more people out there than are willing to admit, or maybe they even know or realize that they are experiencing some sort of mental illness or something that's debilitating, and maybe they're like totally functional, or they think that they are, or that, you know, whatever level they're operating at, it's like kind of what they're used to, and they're just like, I'm fine, you know. And
like
also,
I was.
Right, yeah.
So I was just like that.
And the stigma around, you know, even that word mental illness. What would you say to someone who is, you know, in their heart and deep in the back of their mind, they're like, yeah, maybe there's something going on, but like they're kind of afraid to even admit that.
Yeah, to even themselves.
Yeah.
I think I would just want them to know that it's okay to not be okay. I think it takes strength to be able to say that something's wrong. We're not meant to get through this life with everything being okay all the time.
Yeah.
We're meant to feel emotions. Jesus Christ wept when John the Baptist died, when Lazarus was dead. He he was sad. And there are scriptures that say the heavens wept. The scriptures are filled with people being happy and people being angry, because feeling is very much a mortal experience that prepares us to become like our Father and to be ready for that fullness of joy. And it's not Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ. They don't ask us to not feel. They ask us to feel and to choose them anyway. Mm-hmm. To be like, I feel this way. I feel fear. I feel sad, but I'm going to hold out the hope that one day it will be better. Because there might be a really long time that it's not okay. Everything could suck for days, months, years, mm-hmm. but there will come a time when you won't be surviving anymore. You'll actually be living, and it's worth it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Lyndon, do you have any final thoughts or questions for our guest, our lovely guest?
Well, I mean, I think I know the answer to this. But back to that Christmas day.
Okay.
Any regrets? Do you just rue the day, that Christmas day? You're like, why did I have to get that sort of revelation?
Not in the slightest. It's my mission changed me in that it helped me understand myself better, and it helped me understand the Spirit better, and it allowed me to help other people come closer to Christ while also helping me come closer to Christ. And I don't think if I hadn't gone, then I don't think I would have even considered talking to somebody about what was going on in my brain. And the longer you let a mental illness go without getting help, the worse it's going to get. And so I was really lucky with the way that it all worked out and the way that Heavenly Father helped it work out. And I wouldn't change a single thing about that.
Beautiful.
I don't even want to talk now. I feel like we should just end it there. Mercedes, thank you honestly so much for coming on. Much appreciated. I think this is an important subject. I do feel strongly about it, and I think we could all afford to, I don't know, just get better in touch with ourselves and our emotions and everything. So thank you so much. Lyndon, anything to say?
Listeners, just like an X-Acto knife to the finger, your soul and your mind can be wounded as well. And you got to exercise a little self-care. And to do that, you got to be true and faithful.
Bye.